So the first question, and now this is on how to improve. And this might be, since by the way, full disclosure here, I do present the questions to the guys beforehand so that they can come in with coherent answers and they're hemming and hawing and whatnot. I did change the order of the questions to some degree, and I think this is one of the places where I did that. So we're going to call this section How to Improve. And that's, so right off the bat, in a general sense, okay, how do game masters continue to grow and improve their skills? And we'll start with Malachi again.
Well, first thing is talk to and watch other people run games. Like, talk to people that run games, watch their games. That's one way you can pick up little tips, tricks, ideas. Also, you could try some YouTube videos, some podcasts, and don't be afraid to try new stuff. But at the same time, if you don't think it's going to work, don't do it.
Okay. I think I have a follow-up question that's directly related to that. I do not. I know I do somewhere in here. So, so watching other people is a way to grow. How about, I want to ask that one to Cody. So I'll give you, what can players do to challenge you as the game master in a positive and constructive manner?
Besides the criticism part, they can try things at the table to push your improvisation abilities and get that brain to work and to think and to come up with things on the fly. Because like, one of my favorite things about this hobby is, we're at the table, the game's going on, and somebody does something so off the wall, and I have to make up a ruling for how to determine if they succeed or fail. That is one of my favorite things about the hobby.
How do you handle when that happens and then the player starts arguing because his expectations are different than how you see it for your world?
Most of the time, I don't give, unless the player gives such an explanation. I think, like, this is going to happen the way he expects it to. I will leave it to a die roll and give him either a 25-50 or a 75% chance of succeeding.
Okay. Interesting
way. You roll that die. You don't say anything until that die rolls. You get your outcome, and then you can be upset. And you can't be upset at me. You're going to be upset at the die.
It's called passing the buck. I got it. Yep. I love it. All right, Cody, same question. How in a general sense, how do game masters continue to grow and improve their skills?
I hate to say this. I hate to give this answer, but I think it's important to know that, like with anything, the way you get better at something is by doing it. And the more you do it, the better you're going to get at it. And also, do not get stuck in what you're doing. Don't get frustrated what you're doing. Try to improve. If you think you did things wrong, or if the players tell you did things wrong, also, this comes into criticism. Be open to criticism. Don't get butthurt. Just take the criticism like a man or a woman and walk on and use that to grow. And, you're going to fuck up. Everybody does. I do it all the time. Even after 30 years of doing it, I still messing up all the time. So, but I learned from those mistakes. I'm still learning. You're going to still be learning as a new person. Don't be afraid to mess up. Don't be afraid to try new things out. Try new things out. Even this goes for veteran GMs too. Also, don't get stuck in your ways. Try new things out. You see something you're not quite sure of, be like, I don't know if I really like that. Well, try it out. See how it rolls. Just try it out in one little encounter or one little, tidbit or session or whatever. I try new things out all the time. A lot of times they don't work. And I'm like, yeah, that sucked. I'm not going to use that.
Yep.
But I tried it. I thought maybe it sounded interesting. It sounded like an interesting idea, but it didn't work. But that's how you grow and learn to be a GM, is you try things out and you do it. And you do it more and more and more. And you're going to learn more and more and more. Also, I say you're going to learn more by experiencing different players, experiencing different people.
Yes.
Like go to, once you gain your confidence a little bit, run a game at a convention, run a game with a different group, run a game with your friends and family, and then run a game with your coworkers, and then go run a game on, at the game store or whatever. I think that's an important thing too, is learning to adapt to other people. That's really going to strengthen you as a GM, because everybody's different. Everybody plays the game and approaches the game differently. And now you have to approach the game a little bit differently to adapt to these new people that have new ideas and new thoughts and new ways expressing how they play the game. So I think that's important as well. Is basically basically the two things here are, experience and also new ideas, and don't be afraid of them and try to incorporate them. And, you're just going to grow over time and incorporate things. And again, develop your own style and your own voice as being a GM.
Before I ask you your follow-up, I want to put this on the screen because this is something you've talked about, Cody. I've mentioned as well. I think you should talk to your players and find out what you can work on. I do this after every session. I do it a little bit differently than some people, but I do it after every session. So I have slips of paper, and I always give them their experience points on slips of paper. One, because they can keep it, and if I ever have to figure out the math, I've got a copy of it myself, so I know you're not cheating. But I'll put notes on there, like things that did really well, because I do give out role-playing experience. I don't care if people like that or hate it. It's one of the things I do. I give out role-playing experience. And then I'll ask after they get their experience points so that they don't feel like I screwed them. If they say something they don't like or feel that they need to buy me out, I'll be like, okay, what could I have done? Or what did you like? What did you not like? What could I have done better? What do you want to see more of? Just whatever. I want the good and the bad. And yes, I do it right then and there. And I usually get, that's pretty good. That was okay, whatever. The biggest ones that I received in the past were stop grilling people who aren't at how some of us role play that aren't that level, and stop grilling them. You're making them uncomfortable. And another one is that your combats were too long. Now, both of the first one, I was a little hard, but I was a little hard on the guy because of the fact that the players weren't doing it like they normally do. It was weird because normally the players at my table are the ones that do the encouragement, but at this point they weren't. So I was like, okay, give me more. What are you doing? How is your character doing it? What are you thinking? Because remember, yes, I'm one of those actors. No, I do both sides of it, where I want the player to be in character, and he wasn't comfortable with that. And he'd been playing for a while. The combat side of it, it was a big combat. I don't know what to tell you. It was a big combat. I don't know what you want me to do when it's a big combat. Maybe you guys, I still do the whole, okay, what are you doing on your turn? Oh, okay, you're standing there stationary. What's next? And they get mad at me about things like that, but they understand. So it's just, if you're missing 15 times in a row, if you're being boring, just going to swing again this round. Well, yeah, it's going to be a boring combat for you. But if you're into it, okay, I'm running. This time I'm going to slide under his legs and I'm going to try to punch him in the nuts. Okay, whoa. All right, give me an attack roll. Since you're sliding, you're going to be at a -2, but you know what? He wasn't expecting that, so when he attacks you, he's also going to be at a -2. Something like that. But we move on. You add some energy to it. So is it me? Is it not me? That's one of the times that I'm going to say I didn't feel it was as much of me as they thought, but it did cause me to think it through in the future when I did combat. Do I want to have a combat that's that big anymore, or do I just rather have, say, 1 or 2 baddies instead of 15 baddies that they have to, tactically deal with? 6 of one, half a dozen the other. It depends. But I took that feedback. And so please provide that feedback to your game master if he does that.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I'm all for having feedback. I think what you actually do is a really good idea. I might start implementing that. What I usually do is I ask everybody at the end of the game, and of course, they're not going to give an honest answer because, group mentality, they're going to be like, oh, yeah, man, it was great.
Or they just want to go.
Yeah. But usually what I do is a couple days after the game, I start talking to people about the game afterwards and secretly kind of grilling them about what's going on with their character, how they're liking the game, what their character wants to do in between sessions and stuff like that. And they start being they're a little bit more open one-on-one. So that's usually how I gain some more information about what I'm doing wrong or what I'm doing right. I can kind of gain some intel there about that. I think how you do it is a much better way to do it. I might start doing that, to be honest with you. See, learning, growing, new things. I will tell you, if it has one weakness, you actually kind of mentioned that is kind of the group think right away, or just they're packed up their books yeah, everything's great, got to go back, so sometimes it's better to get it even be, after a reapproach. Got to understand what I'm talking about. A lot of the things that I'm talking about here, I was in the Air Force, so my group, we all lived very close to each other for the most, whether it's base housing or, in the dorms or whatever, for a lot of the time that I was doing this as a game master anyway.
So we were fairly close to each other. Now people have Discords. Like the guys I work with, they're on Discord chatting all the time about their sessions and so forth. And so there are definitely venues where you can do that. So yeah, immediately might not be the best place. At the same time, you get the raw reaction.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, and also what you were pointing on there, sometimes it's not your fault. Like we've talked about this. I think we talked about this last time that I was on, is the players have to be as engaged with the game as you are.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And Crafty brought this up too, is that, you're not just the GM is the leader. You should be, I'm firmly of the belief that the GM should be the leader of the group and setting a good example, the best example for everybody. But the players need to bring as much energy into the game as you're bringing in, and I try to get, I mean, it isn't always that way. I mean, sometimes I've had a hard week, or sometimes I'm just fucking tired and I'm not bringing my A game, but the players should be striving to bring their A game as well, and so, when the players are as engaged and bringing as much motion and energy into the game, like you said, like in a combat, I slide under the guy's, legs and then stab him in the ass or whatever. Well, okay, yeah, that's awesome, or I'm gonna grab onto the chandelier and fly down into the crowd and stab down on the dude's head. I love it when they do this stuff, and I always give them bonuses or whatever to what they're doing, because I encourage that kind of thing, because it brings more energy to the combat, or into a role-playing situation or whatever. I highly encourage these things when we're playing, and I try to bring the same energy and hope that the players bring it too. But the players are partially responsible here too. They need to realize that they need to bring as much energy as the GM is bringing, and it's going to make a much better game session, right?
Okay, so here's the follow-up I really wanted to ask you, which is it beneficial, and I'm asking you because I think you're the one that brought this up earlier, is it beneficial for a forever GM to become a player? And if so, how can this improve his game mastering skills?
Absolutely. Yes, absolutely. I don't, as much as Bear, I think there's some people that just like one role or the other. They like to be a player better. They like to be a GM better, and that's fine. But I think everybody should take both seats every once in a while, because like I've seen many a forever GM that have GM'd a little too much, and they've gotten a little too much in their head as a GM and forgotten what it's like to be a player. And when they step into that seat again, I think it makes them realize, it's a completely different perspective being on both sides of the table. So I think it's absolutely beneficial. You're going to learn some things that are like, wait a minute, I didn't really like what he did there, but that's kind of like what I do all the time, right? So maybe I need to change that thing that I do all the time, or it can also make you see that maybe some of the things you do are better, or that they work better. You can, because being a GM, you can realize that, what he's doing there is kind of weak, actually. Maybe I can give him some criticism or some feedback. But also being a GM, being on the player side, you can realize when the GM is running into trouble, and you can help out the group, and you can help out the GM, and you can maybe help the GM as a player, as in character, kind of steer the game back in direction when it kind of goes off the rails a little bit, right? So yeah, I think there's many benefits to being on both sides of the table, and I think everybody needs to experience both sides at one point or another in their life, so I don't think GMs need to sit behind the screen their whole life. I think they need to be players every once in a while and experience that, and
it's great for a player to experience the DM side, just to see how much work theoretically. Again, I know there's zero prep GMs out there and so forth. It's a different thing, but just so you understand that the game master's job is not as easy. And somebody put in the chat here, the GM is a player. In the technical sense, you're all players at the table, but there are different terms for this for a reason. Players for the players, and the game master is the game master. Yes, he's technically a player, but we use the terms so that you can understand the difference between what role we're talking about. I was going to make one more comment and I forgot what it was. I just lost it. So I'm going to move on to the next question then, so I'm not wasting time. Malachi, did you have any final commentary on in the general sense of how to game master continue to improve their skills?
Nope.
Okay. So the second question for this, in case I remember, what I was going to ask a moment ago is now a bit more specifically. What resources, habits, or practices can help game masters improve their skills and approach? We started with Malika, so Cody. Got him right as he was drinking. Perfect timing.
So resources, habits, there's a lot of things here, right? And like it's an exhaustive list, and I won't go through the whole thing. I'd say as a new GM, the first like resources, it really depends on what kind of game you're like what game you're running. Because I would say overall, whatever inspires you is a resource first off, and take that inspiration and bring it into your game. So whether that's a TV show, whether that's a book or a comic book or movie or what have you, that's a big resource. This has been my resource for my whole life is media I've, been exposed to constantly and still is. And I'm like, that's pretty cool. And I'll make.
What about books on like history, philosophy, mythology?
Absolutely. Yeah. So, I'm a big history guy. I'm a big philosophy guy. I love all that stuff, sciences and all that. And I absolutely bring that kind of stuff into my game. I think that's a really great resource. All that is, especially history, because there's a lot of events and there's a lot of people and places and things, and even architecture, religions, philosophies in history of religions and all kinds of things that you can bring into your game. And I do that constantly. Like my whole fantasy world is based on, history mainly, and then like fantasy second. Like I took it all from history. So yeah, I mean, like history, science, philosophy, all that's a great resource. And really to sum it up, whatever inspires you is a good resource. First off, I think.
So I'm going to flip the script on you. I'm actually going to jump in. I'm not even going to let Malachi go yet. I do agree that those are important, but I don't care. And what I mean by that is, how many times have we had behind the scenes conversation with like Bear, and Bear will be like, well, that's the myth of this, and it's some Greek epic. And I'm like, I don't read those. I don't read Arthurian legends. I don't read Greek epics. And it's not that they're bad. I think everybody should read them. I haven't read all of Aesop's fables, the real ones, the ones that are actually pretty dark, Grimm's. Yeah. But the point being, they absolutely are inspiration. I'm not disagreeing there. What I read to inspire me were Dungeons and Dragons books.
Sure.
Dragonlance, Forgotten Realms. But and I'm not saying you said this, to be clear, but I have talked to a bunch of people like, well, if you don't understand history, you really can't run a game. If you don't know myth and fable, how can you know how to put this together with that? And it's based on a Greek epic, because I'm like, I'm not looking to recreate Greek epics in my game unless it's completely accidental. Yeah. It's a hero's journey, so to speak, that I'm more interested in.
Yes.
I absolutely agree with you. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut in, Malachi.
Oh, it's okay.
I absolutely agree with you. But like whatever you're inspired by, whatever media you're inspired by, probably was inspired by that or is inspired by that anyway. So you already understand those concepts. You read the X-Men. Well, guess what? The X-Men was inspired by this, and it was inspired by this, and it was inspired by that. It was inspired by some ancient Greek fable, right? Like, so it all comes from somewhere. Everything comes from somewhere. So like whether you say you understand or not, you actually kind of do, because it's been passed down. Now,
it's just that mentality of like, you don't realize that is just Homer's Odyssey. You did it in a modern form. Like, no, I didn't, and I don't care.
Yeah, no, and then it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if you don't like history, you don't like mythology. That's fine. If you like comic books and you like Conan novels and whatever TV show or anime or whatever the hell you like, that's fine. That's your inspiration. Mm-hmm. And that's all I'm saying is take your inspiration and you can incorporate that into your game. Those ideas, those things you like that turn you on, probably you're going to turn other people on too.
Sure.
And really all these ideas are old ideas at the end of the day. Mm-hmm. So,
I mean, you can point to the Bible for a lot of them as well, not getting religious here, but you can. I mean, there are a lot of stories, parables in the Bible that you can turn into. All right, Malachi, let's get back to track and let you jump in. Oh yeah, go ahead.
Hero's Journey. Every one of us has watched it. Everybody in chat has watched it. And the hero's journey goes back to like Odysseus when he was coming back from the war against Troy. His journey back. It's the hero's journey. We've all watched it. It's freaking Star Wars.
Sure. All right. Well, let's go to the real question for you, so you get a chance to actually answer it now. What resources, habits, or practices can help game masters improve their skills and approach?
All right, I got 2, and they kind of can go hand in hand.
Okay.
Number 1, don't be afraid to look at some random charts to help spark that creativity. Roll them dice, get some stuff, see if you can fit it together somehow. Maybe you can steal something from somewhere else to kind of fit in there too. And hand in hand with that is solo gaming. Solo gaming can help you learn the rules and make things go smoother when you're actually playing with other people, because you can get things in rote memory. And there's this one guy I've been watching his OSE solo series, Scudder for Mike. And when he did his creation of the hex where everything takes place, he's rolling stuff. He's got an evil paladin that's rolling part of this land. He's rolling up the loot he has. He has a cursed town that changes alignment. So his world, this paladin, became evil because his alignment was changed by the helm. Because he rolled everything randomly, he generated this little backstory for this character.
Okay. I get a little squinty eye when it comes to solo gaming, because I'm not against it as a game, but when people are like, I role play, I do solo game. You're not role playing. Shut up. You're playing a game. That's fine, but you're not role playing. But yes, absolutely. In fact, I do that a lot. I try to get my wife involved, but she cannot stand playing these games. So I do a lot of solo gaming myself to test out aspects of a game. 100% agree with that. I think that before you run any game, you should do a couple of mock combats so that you see how the flow goes and so forth. So I agree with that.
You should also create characters, more than one.
Yep. And I'll get into the Crafty and Omenel argument for the old Conan 2D20 system. I think Omenel was on the side of, hey, use the online character creator because it'll make sure it's correct and accurate for you. And Crafty's like, no, until you know how to make a character, don't use the editor. And I'm with Crafty on this one, 100%. Like, you need to know how to do it by hand before you use an online generator.
And I'm going to throw this out there. Another way to help you learn the little nuances with the system. I have Fallout, Actin Cthulhu, and I have Conan 2D20. All are based on the same system, yet all characters, when you create them, your created character, are different power levels. And I didn't realize that actually until I sat down and made characters. Fallout is a grittier game. Your character is not as powerful as an Actin Cthulhu.
Is this the 2D20 version?
Yeah.
I don't want to change the topic here, but I heard a lot of people complain about the Fallout 2D20 game, saying that it's missing a lot of rules or something.
I think
I don't know.
My whole issue is I wanted more stuff with DC, and it's mostly about Boston.
Okay. So Malachi, your follow-up question is going to be, what are the benefits and pitfalls of watching other game masters? I mean, because there's good and bad. What are the benefits and pitfalls?
Benefits? Pitfall, we all know the big pitfall. The Mercer effect.
Okay, what is that for people who watch this and don't know what that means?
That is, you watch Critical Role and you expect every single table to be like his, and they are not. Every table will be different. And, you can learn something. The Happy Jacks crew, when they ran a Savage Rifts game when it first came out, that was my introduction to the system. That helped me learn the system. Is a way to learn systems when they follow the rules. You got to make sure you're doing reading and double checking everything. And if that route you want to go with, not so much a Critical Role one, because they hand wave a lot of things.
Is that necessarily bad, though? I mean, why can't you learn to do that in your game? So let's use Bear's game that we're in for an example. I mean, he's not following every single Palladium rule out there. RPG is Dumb, who ran that Rifts game for us. We absolutely had a great time playing that game. But yeah, he definitely hand-waved a lot of things in there. It still felt like Rifts. We were still making Palladium-style rolls, but maybe you can kind of learn something from that. I don't always have to have somebody roll a skill check to tie his shoes.
Right. The skill check is for when the whether passing or failing the check is going to make a meaningful impact.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I will say, you need to learn the rules and run the game rules as written before you hand wave or change anything.
That's
so
fair.
you do not come across unintended consequences of any rule changes you make.
Okay. That's
We're
fair.
a believer in that.
Go ahead, Cody.
I will say also, not just the Mercer effect, I think it's actually like an online effect. Because running a game online, as I've learned, is very different than running a game at the table. So
Oh God, yeah.
Is.
This comes up a lot, and I say it too, is go online and watch people GM, but that's actually not the greatest advice because the way you run a game online is very different to the way you run a game at the table.
Yeah.
Now, granted, I run games online. I try to run them like I do at the table, but I do realize I'm doing this live. I have an audience. People are watching, and we have a limited time frame here. So I have to cram things in. I have to cut things out. I have to still entertain the audience. So it's a very different vibe than playing at a table. And also, you're not getting the actual physical emotions and reactions and feel from your players that you do at a table. When I describe the big Tiamat walking out of the portal and have to describe that its flesh is melting and all this shit, like all the heavy descriptions.
Get somebody playing on his phone, another person looking over there talking to his wife, somebody playing with the die roller.
Well, we're right. I mean, but those kind of things factor in. This is very different at the table than it is online, right?
Yeah.
So do not judge how role-playing games are played by just watching people online. Go actually fucking play role-playing games at the table, because that's where they really should be played. That's how they're supposed to be played. Online games are great. I'm really happy that we can do that and connect with people we relate to all over the world and all this stuff and share this with people. But in reality, playing it at the table is how it should be played, with real people in real life. And it's a very different and better experience than playing it online. So don't follow that as your example of how to run a game in person. You know what I mean? Don't do that. You can gain some things from doing it, but that's not, it's a very different experience.
I will say that everybody that I've watched, every actual play I've listened to, it's always been in-person gaming. I don't think I've watched any actual this kind of online gaming. And
it's where the camera's pointed at a table.
Yep.
Gotcha.
Yeah, and I will say also another thing you can learn and something you can pull. This is one thing I picked up from Robert Schwab. His enthusiasm when he's running the game. You need to have that. And you can learn how to bring that out of yourself by listening to people who are enthusiastic when they run games.
I look at our Palladium fantasy game, and Bear obviously adds a lot with his game mastering style, but the players around the Discord or not Discord, the StreamYard add their own impact. I mean, you got the old geek on there with this character with obvious personality. Was it Navri? Is that his name?
Yeah.
Not
Navi.
Dude's only Navi. He's only been playing for 6 months now.
Yeah.
When the players also come in with their own energy as well in that. So, as a player, I feel like I fit in. As a game master around you guys, I'm dead serious when I say I don't know if my skills are up anymore. I need to take some of these lessons, because I haven't been doing what I consider to be good games, and now I'm meeting game masters that I feel blow me out of the water. I don't know if I want to be a game master again. But my point is that players also do bring a lot to the table and can help the game master in that regard. Players are, and then that's a resource that I think that, and I have this written down here, players as a resource. One of the things I've done in my games, you guys may have heard this before, is I'll especially if I'm doing a homebrew or just something, I don't want to call it off the wall, but something that's not based on a complete setting. To be fair, I'll use Corinne a lot with the gods, yada, yada, but I'll still make it my own homebrew setting. And I'll be look, come up with wives' tales, come up with adages, come up with things that you can bring into the world. The joke I always use is the pot of gold under the rainbow. Is it real or is it not real? There's only one way to find out. go check it out. Now, I'd rather not real world ones come in there, but just using that as an example, now we have a possible adventure. Now we have a some side content. Maybe it's like, there's a rainbow. Guys, you want to see if there's a pot of gold under it? And it could be false. It could be true. It could just be, scientifically, it's, the water's acting as a prism, yada, yada. Or you get there and there's a leprechaun like, oh, you want me gold, do you? Like, who knows? But come up with something. So let the players be some sort of a resource in the game as well.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, I use this constantly. I do have my world built, but my world was loosely built at the beginning, and I built that off of what the players were doing in my first campaign, and then I continued building that off what they did in the second campaign, and it just got more and more and more. And I let the players give me input. Like some players, like, what are the hobbits like in the Three Shires? I'm like, well, they're kind of like this, but you're the only hobbit we've had, so you give me some more information, and we can build on that. And then in the next game, now I have more to build on. Mm-hmm. Or for an example, in this campaign I'm running, which is, they actually went to this kingdom that one of the players in my first campaign became the king of this kingdom. And now he's the NPC that I'm having to play in this kingdom. So before the game started, I was like, hey, dude, because he's an elf, and this has been hundreds of years later, he's the only one that's still alive. So I'm like, well, you'd be alive because you're an elf. So tell me what he's going to be like now. And so we had to have a conversation about it. And I was like, okay, asking him questions. Is this the same? Is this the same? But at the same time, I'm still the GM. I'm going to change things. I'm going to alter things. But I built off what the players had already established and brought to the game. And players love that, right? Because they, a couple of these players were involved in that first campaign we played in this world, and they feel more immersed in this world because they built the world with me. It's a cooperative experience, right? Now, if they don't want to do that, that's fine. Like, I'll fill in the details. But if you give them the option to, a lot of players will give you stuff to feed off of.
Absolutely.
So you don't let them do it, because it's just going to give you more material to work with. And it's going to bring a better experience too, I think.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Vampire Kingdoms and Rifts comes from part of the original Palladium fantasy game that the players never went to.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah, it was on the Glitter Boys podcast.
Oh, is there a new one out there?
No, it was on first or second one.
Oh, I either missed that or I listened to them all and I thought that they were good. The ones where they're talking with Kevin, but let's get back to this. Oops, hold on 1 second. Got to feed a cat. So the other thing that I have, and Cody had already talked to, both of you guys had already talked about this, is habits. And one of the habits that I have written down here, if I can read my own writing, is listen. Is get feedback and listen. You're not the expert just because you are the leader of the world, so to speak. You are the God's God, right? But listen, learn, take feedback. And I wrote this one down when Cody said it because I think this is it's an ego thing. Don't get frustrated, but players should also give constructive criticism, and I'm not going to go into the story here, but these guys have heard the story. Maybe I'll tell it some other time. Not the criticism I got for how I used Drow in a game back in the 90s, because I was setting something up and the game master didn't like how I used the Drow. And he just let me have it in and out and upside down. Like, no, be constructive about it. Actually, he's a player as a game master. But just if you guys like what you're seeing here, if you like Cody's answers, if you like Malachi's answers, if you just want to give them a like, subscribe, share, actually for them it'd be right now just be a subscribe. They're not streaming anything, but go check out their channels. Description links are in the description. Please subscribe to GM Cody. Also subscribe to Malachi. It doesn't do so much on the. Did you send me the blog post link or your YouTube channel link?
I put the link to my YouTube. Do you need the blog?
You can add that as well. And then, because you're using that more than your YouTube, right?
Right now, yeah. But I'm prepping something for YouTube.
Cool. Well, again, be sure to follow these guys because you can get more content like this, especially from Jim Cody on the video side, because I know he's been covering concepts and games and whatnot. And Malachi, he's been writing his blogs on Fallout, and I think you had a couple of D&D or gaming related ones up there at one point. Okay.
I've actually got one up today.
So now with that said, and I'll add that link here in a moment, let's hit these super chats and then move on to the next question. So super chats, what do we got here? That one was done. Crafty for $5. Thank you very much, Crafty, for the $5. Like, how do you improve? Read the effing manual. Max, hey, that's me. Can tell you how upset I get at people that just don't know the rules. Only be surprised when I point the rule out. Yeah, I love how when Crafty even points a rule out, it's not really there. You're reading into it. No, it literally says, "Hi, I'm the rule." Right? And they'll be like, "No, that isn't what that means." But it says, "Hi, I'm the rule," so therefore it's Anyway, yeah, just because you don't play that way at your table doesn't mean it's not the rule. So thank you for the $5, Crafty. And a reminder for folks: if we make $100 tonight during segment 5, which is the stuff that won't go to video, we'll have a giveaway. And I do have the Ultimate Arena set back up again. So,
Nice.
I just have to add all the super chatters for today. So with that, unless you guys have any final comments, I'm going to say like, subscribe, and share. And I think we're going to move on to the third question. You guys good with that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's do it.